do some exercise on the arrays. So as you can see in Java the array looks like this. You simply have a sequence of something. You can have a sequence of Boolean values. You can have a sequence of strings. But in this case, we simply have a sequence of integers. You can see that the blue ones here, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, up to 9. So they are called indices. So each index must always start with 0. And the maximum index you have should be 1 minus the size of the array. So in this case, you can see that you have the size of the array being 10 because you have 0 up to 9. Okay, so that's the real part. It doesn't start with 1. You always start with 0 in Java. That's the first thing to know. Okay, let's see how we can do such an array in Java. It's actually quite easy to do. There are only a few syntax you have to remember. It's actually not too bad. Okay, launch your Eclipse, and then let's create a new project. Let's see. So you can create a new project, or you can use the project you created for Monday. Doesn't matter. Okay, launch Eclipse, and then you can see in your package explorer here. So for example, I got week 3 lab 1. So I'll just create another project, week 3 lab 2. So Java projects. So CSE114 week 3 lab 2, for example. Create a project here, and then you're going to create a new Java class, let's say. Let's say we simply call that, let's say, simple array or array tester, whatever you like. So this is not part of the formal exercise you're going to do for this lab. Just try something out. You can click on the public static void main here for the Eclipse to generate the main method for you. Say finish here. Okay, let's have a try. So first of all, you can just look at the manual you have. So let's say we're trying to create an array of size 10. So like for other variables, usually when you say, for example, integer I is equal to 10. So in this case, what you're saying is, I'm trying to declare a single placeholder called I. And now I is going to store a single value of type integer only, not multiple values. And the initial value I put into this variable placeholder is simply 10. But for now, the array is going to expand a little bit to say, well, now this placeholder is actually much larger in terms of capacity, so you can store more than one values into it. And the way to do that is somehow the type over here is not integer anymore. You have to say it's a type of array of the integer. And the way to say that is by putting square brackets there. So let me show you. So the way to do that is to say, let's say now I would like to have a placeholder which is going to store multiple integers. The way to do that is to say open square brackets and close square brackets. That's how you say it. Okay, that's the first thing you have to change. And similarly, let's say if I would like to have an array of Boolean values, you would say Boolean, like this. Whatever type you used to have, just have the pair of empty square brackets. That's the syntax. That's the first thing you should learn about the array, about the type. Okay, let's just stick with integer for now. Okay, remember this is the assignment operator in Java. So we have the left-hand side, we have the right-hand side. The left-hand side is actually something we declare the type of the placeholder. And on the right-hand side, we have to give some sort of initial value. For the array, so the second syntax you should learn is you should tell Java that now give me a new array. Okay, that's why we have the new keyword. We'll talk more about the new keyword later on in the course, maybe in about 2 weeks' time. So for now, just the way to understand this is create a new array for me. And now, the way to do this is to repeat the type of the array first. It's because I know I actually need an integer array. But this time, I'm going to say, well, give me an array with some initial size. Let's say size 10, for example. So here, this can be any integer value you like. It can be 10, can be 100, or it can even be some integer variable, which I will show you. That's some part of the exercise you're going to do for today. Okay, so far so good. So now, basically, this line is saying we're going to create a placeholder called I, and I is going to store multiple integer values because you have the on the left-hand side, you have the empty pair of square brackets there. And the right-hand side is saying the new array is going to have the fixed size 10. That's what it is saying. So you can go only up to, you can store only up to 10 integers. If you try to store more than 10, It's not possible. Okay, you should print some error or something. Okay, however, I would suggest, because now typically I is for a single integer, so maybe let's change the name. Okay, it's actually better. It's a better, more suitable. We can say simply like in your manual, say numbers, for example. Okay, that's about the declaration for the array. So you should give a type for the array with the empty pair of square brackets, and also you have to say what the initial size is, and also you have to mention the new keywords. So these are the three things you have to learn first about the array. Okay, that's for declaration of the array and also to initialize some empty array. So now, how do we actually put values into the array? Because after this line, the array is simply somehow, there's no specific value stored in them. Okay, let's say if we would like to have an array like this, let's say like this. So we would like, at index 0, we would like to have the element 940. At index 1, we would like to have the value 880, and etc. The way to do that is to say, we would like to assign the value of 940 to the elements at index 0. Okay, and similarly, we would say we would like to assign the value of 440 to the slots at index 9, etc. Let me just do one line for you and let you do the rest. Okay. So for example, I would say at index 0. So first of all, the way to access into the array is by saying the name of the array. So in this case, we have numbers. That's a variable name. We would say, now, again, square brackets. So square brackets is really the special notation for the array in Java. So now I would say, now I would like to say index 0, at index 0 here, this refers to the slot over there. So this number 0 here refers to this specific slots over there. Now I want to say, please put the value 940 into it. Right? Just trying to do the assignments there. Like how you assign a single integer. So it's basically the same notation. So you would say, now put the value of 940 into it. Okay. So now, how do you do the rest to make sure the array will look like this? So I would say, you should say put the value of 880 to index 1, etc. So please do this for yourself. And while I'm trying to complete the code as well. Okay, try to do that. Okay. Okay, so basically to assign to each of the positions should be just basically the same code. You just change the index value and the value you would like to put into that particular slots. I hope so far it's clear. Okay, I'll give you another 1 minute or two so to finish your typing here, just to type exactly like this. But you can also see the diagram on your paper. So that's exactly what I did. And we are almost done with introducing the array. That's basically all the notation you need to know. That's why I say it's actually quite simple. But it's actually very powerful, data structure, powerful way of storing the data. Okay, so now let's say we have basically set up the array that looks like this. Okay, so now let's do some testing. Let's see how we can, to see if we have done the right thing. Okay, so now we would like to say, for example, we can print something out. We can say system.out.println. Okay, how about we say first element at index 0 is, okay, and now we would like to put the value for the first elements. So what would you suggest to put here? Somehow we need to get access to the first elements in the array.
Number 0.
Yeah, number 0. So here, first of all, you need to mention the name of the array, and you want to do index 0, right? But if you only write this, you wouldn't. Yeah, yeah. If you only conceptually, that's why you need. So these are the two pieces of information you need. But to connect them, you need a square brackets. It's like that. Okay, so we can do one more, and also, so this is how you. So this syntax here tells you how you can print out or to get a value for the elements at a particular index value. So in this case, it's 0. Okay, and there's another function of the array that you can use, which is to get the size of the array. And how do you get that? Okay, so now we can also do system.out.println. So we can say size of the array is. So now here, as I also explained in the manual, the way you can do this is by, first of all, mention the name of the array, and then you'll say dot length. Also, if you type that in the Eclipse, it's going to help you complete the code. You can say dot length. It's going to tell you the size. That's just some function you have to remember. Okay. Okay, so far we have learned you can say the length of some array. You can also get access to a particular element at some index position of the array. Okay, so now let's say if you execute a program, you're going to see something like this. Size of the array is 10, and the first element at index 0 is 940. Okay, that's how you sort of use the array. Okay. So far so good? Everyone follow? Okay. So now, here comes the more interesting bit. So let's say now, if I would like to print out all the contents in the array, let's say I would like to do something like this. So let's say somehow, let's say this line here, line number 18 in my case. So I said first element, let's say, let me just make it a little bit more general. Not really first. Let's say elements. So let's say elements at index 0 is 940. However, I would like to do this for all the contents in the array. I would like to say, for example, elements at index 0 is 940, elements at index 1 is 880, etc. up to elements at index 9 is 1. Of course, one way to do it is you can simply write 10 lines of the very same code. That's one way to do it. Or what can you do? Loop, right? Because somehow you want to repeat similar action. That's really exactly the same scenario for using loops. Okay? I'll show you how to do this, and then it's not hard. Don't think that's hard. It's really easy. So now, so how many can tell me, in this case, should we use a for loop or a while loop? How come? Remember yesterday, so when I told you, in what situation would you like to use a for loop rather than a while loop?
Size is not in certain.
No, that's for the while loop, actually. So for the for loop is when you know exactly how many number of times you actually want to do the repetition, right? In this case, we can use a for loop because somehow if we know the size of the array by using the length function, then we will know exactly how many times we have to print out. So that's why we want to use a for loop. But on Friday's lecture, I'll actually explain this more. But let's just do the exercise first. Okay, let's try the for loop here. So let me show you how you can write a for loop. So just type for here, and then remember to let's just write a skeleton for the for loop first. For parentheses, a pair of parentheses, and also a pair of curly brackets here, and just hit enter in between. Just do this first. So it's always good to get this done first. Okay, and then inside the for, because you have 3 parts, they will be separated by 2 semicolons. Just type it 2 semicolons first. Okay, so now for the first part, as we mentioned on Friday's lecture, sorry, not Friday, Monday's lecture. So the first part is somehow to initialize some loop counter. So in this case, let's say we would like to initialize some loop counter I. Okay, it can be any name you like. It can be I, it can be J, it can be K. Typically, it's I. we should initialize that to be some
0.
initial value. Why would that be 0 in this case?
You have to like put the initial value of 0 and increment it later to.
But why would you
include
choose?
everything.
But actually, initial value can be any value you like. Why would you choose 0 in this
This
case?
is the lowest value
Lowest value for what?
for the set of arrays.
The set of indices you meant. Okay. So the reason that we chose 0 is because you can see that over there, the minimum index for the array is always 0. So when you are trying to iterate through the array, you always should initialize your loop counter as 0.
You can also do it 9 and do minus, right?
Yeah, you can do that. Yeah, actually, that would be some interesting exercise to do, but let's not do it today. That'll be too confusing. Okay, so now we say I is initialized to be 0, so that'd be the initial index to do. And then we should now, so there are two ways to write this. Let me write the first way first. You can say so here we got to specify a condition to say under what circumstances would you stay in the for loop. In this case, we should say, well, as long as the value of I does not exceed 9 in this case, and 9 is exactly the size of the array minus 1. Agree? Okay, so now one way to write it is to say I less than or equal to the size of the array. Remember, size of the array would be numbers dot length. Okay, so this is really the part you should really know. Numbers dot length. This is how you query about the size of the array. And now we'll say minus 1. This might be the easiest way for you to understand. To say we'll start with 0, and then as long as I is less than or equal to the size of the array minus 1. In this case, we'll go only up to and including 9. In this case, we are okay to stay, and then we'll say each time we're going to increment I by 1. So that's the plus plus is the shortcut for I is equal to I plus 1. Okay? So now, another way to write the middle part, another way which is equivalent, another way to write it is simply to say get rid of the minus 1 and get rid of the equals. This is completely equivalent to what I just said. Can you kind of imagine that? So let's say, in this case, numbers.length is going to return 10. I say here, I will stay in the for loop as long as I'm strictly smaller than 10. That means I'm only going to up to 9. I cannot go up to 10, right? Because once I go up to 10, 10 is now strictly less than 10. Okay, that's just another way to write it. But I thought maybe when you say less than or equal to the length, minus 1 might be easier. Okay, it's up to you, completely up to you. Okay, so let's do, maybe just go back to the first way. If you find it easier, doesn't matter which way you do. Okay, now we would like to somehow to actually, because we simply don't want to print line number 18 10 times ourselves manually. We would like to somehow to specify this common code inside the loop body, so it will just repeat automatically for us. Okay? Why don't we simply just copy and paste this line into here first, and then we can see how we can change that slightly. Just copy and paste that line into the loop body. Okay, I'm going to copy and paste line number 18 here, simply there. Don't worry about it, it's not right yet, but that will give us a good starting point.
940, 940, 940.
So now, you can see that this line here is very specific about index 0 here, right? Very specific about that. However, you can see that inside the for loop, we do have access to this loop counter I here, right? Loop counter I will start with 0 and it will keep incrementing from 1 to 2 to 3 to 4, etc. until the end. So somehow we can use the value of I in place of just 0 here, because I will actually change its value each time in the iteration, right? Follow? No? You can give me a yes or no. Yes? Follow? Yes. Yes. Okay, good. If no, then just call me later. Yeah, I can help you. Anyway, so the idea is, because we know that at the runtime, I is going to change its value from 0 up to 9. So each time when we run the loop, we're going to just ask what's the current value for I. If it is 0, it's going to do 0. Otherwise, it's going to do 1 or 2 or 3. So let me show you how to do that. The way to do that is elements at index. So here, this should not be part of the string literal anymore. Plus, so here, instead of 0, we're going to say I. So I would be the current value for the loop counter, basically. I is numbers. So here we can say I. Okay, so take your time. So it might take some time for you to digest this. Let me just explain again. We used to have simply at index 0, but now we actually say elements at index, and then here you can see we actually referring to this placeholder here. And this placeholder is going to change its value in each of the iterations for the loop. So in the first iteration, i's value is going to be 0. So this line is going to be printed as elements at index 0 is, and it's going to get access to the index 0's position in the numbers, which is 900 or something, I forgot. And now in the second iteration, I will be incremented by 1 because of the I++. So it will go from 0 to 1. So now, when we print this line, we're going to say element at index 1 at this time. 1 is, and now we're going to get the element at index 1 rather than 0 as in the previous iterations.
Space before is.
Yeah, I would, yeah, like that. Yes. Okay, follow? So you should really play with this program. I think that's the simplest one I can think of for the for loop over the array. Okay. Okay, so now we have to, say put a space here, good point. So now let's just try to execute this program here. So before we do that, you can just comment these two lines out, just to avoid any confusion here. You can just put 2 forward slashes to put them in comments. Okay, let's just execute the code. You will see that, that's really the convenience of the loop. We have only written about 3 lines of code, which we should have written for maybe about 10 or 11 lines of code if we didn't use the loop, right? So now it's doing, say, element at index 0 is this, and index 1 up to at index 9 is what, right? So think about this example after you go back home today. So this really demonstrates, first of all, how you can initialize a new array with some fixed size, and also how you can change the contents of the elements in the array, and also how you can run a loop to iterate over the array. Okay. Good. So now, that would be the simple exercise I would like you to do. So now, give a try on the exercise I gave to you. Okay, I'll let you try for maybe 15 minutes, just to get maybe the first or second steps done. They're somehow related to what we did in the previous lab sessions. Try them out first, and then I'll give you some help maybe after 15 minutes.